Hello and welcome to my second video. Those of you who saw my first video already know what to expect. For those who are seeing my content for the first time, I have a small warning: this is not going to be an in-game video celebrating Rollercoin, nor a tutorial explaining strategies. Honestly, it's going to be a boring video full of brutal mathematics, but I believe it's something everyone who is or wants to be active in Rollercoin should see. Because what I'm about to show you here is something no developer or content creator will ever tell you. I dare say you won't find any other analysis like this on YouTube, and personally, I would have been extremely glad to know this before I started with Rollercoin, because it would have saved me a lot of time and, quite frankly, mostly money. In my first video, I compared my earnings relative to growth over a certain period of time. Originally, I wanted to make this video in the autumn to compare a full year, but since I have decided to quit active playing, I'm going to show you the reality of Rollercoin right now. Last time, I only dealt with my own growth, the drop in rewards, and the decline in power efficiency, which is basically just the symptom. This time, I'm going to go a step further and show you the actual cause of why the vast majority of ordinary players are earning less and less. I'll tell you what I personally think about some of Rollercoin's rules, and I'll show you a comparison of the same coins from my first video, just over a longer time frame. I also want to state up front that I won't be dealing with the RST token or coins like Algorand and USDT, which cannot be withdrawn. I will only focus on coins that you can actually cash out. Notice one thing this time: I no longer call Rollercoin a game, but rather a system or an economic model. In my opinion, claiming that Rollercoin is just a game is misleading, a universal shield against criticism. Marketing built on millions of dollars paid out and dozens of actual bitcoins mined turns Rollercoin into a gamified financial product. That disclaimer in the footer serves as legal protection for the company, because advertising built on the possibility of earning real money creates entirely different expectations than what most people associate with a classic video game. On the other hand, yes, I do call the people in the system players, but don't forget that a gambler at a roulette table in Las Vegas is also a player. None of them sit there because of great gameplay or graphics. They are there for the money. What many people have certainly experienced and will experience in Rollercoin is a real financial loss, not a high score in Tetris. Let's get into it. I showed you this video from one of the whales, specifically Chiquita, last time just for the sake of comparing earnings. But gradually, I realized that I could find another crucial piece of information here, and that is the network power. Chiquita released this video on August 20th, 2024, and you can see a total network power of 5.928 zettahashes. In this other video by player AmpliCrypto, released almost exactly a year later, specifically on August 22nd, 2025, just a few days before the leagues were introduced, the total network power is already at 182.801 zettahashes. In this single year, the total network power grew by 2,983%, and as we all know, the block reward never grew at anywhere near that pace. On June 13, 2026, less than a year later, when I was leaving the Platinum 3 League, the total power of just this single league was a whopping 52% larger than the entire system was less than a year prior. At the same time, there were only 1,740 players in this single league, meaning that just 1,740 players commanded 52% more power than the entirety of Rollercoin back in August 2025. If I were to compare this to Chiquita's video, it turns out that in 2026, just 1,740 players had nearly 4,600% more power than the whole system did in August 2024. In essence, yes, these are huge numbers and massive spikes proving immense activity, but we can't just stop there. We have to contrast this with the second crucial factor, the block rewards. Specifically, the exact rewards that Rollercoin splits among players approximately every 10 minutes. And right here is where we find the core problem, the actual root cause of our constantly shrinking earnings. In this video, again by player AmpliCrypto, released on August 28, 2025, we can see the power of the Platinum 3 League and its rewards at the time, so let's compare them. Back then, the leagues were just starting out. The power of this specific league was 26.534 zettahashes, and it had only 193 players. As I already mentioned, I left this league on June 13, 2026. At that exact moment, less than a year later, this very league had a network power of 278.170 zettahashes and already counted 1,740 players, representing a power increase of nearly 950% and a player count explosion of 800%. Today, on July 11th, as I start processing this data, there are already 2,029 players in this league, which brings the total player growth to 951%. But take a look at how the block reward has changed since then. The first number shows the state when the leagues were launched, the second number shows the state as of July 11, 2026. Do you see it now? When a league grows at a pace of several 100%, but the rewards only increase by mere tens of percent, it means the pie meant to feed all these hungry players is actually shrinking incredibly fast. And that is exactly what leads to what we are witnessing in Rollercoin today, a gradual, unstoppable decline in rewards, no matter how hard you try. From this exact same video, I also managed to extract part of the rewards and player counts for the Diamond 1 League back then. When compared to today's numbers, the figures are different, but the reality remains exactly the same. Unfortunately, Rollercoin hides individual power levels within the leagues, and the initial power wasn't visible in the video, so I can't calculate the exact percentage. However, when you look at this massive influx of players, it must be blindingly obvious that the total power of this league skyrocketed as well. Just look at the massive difference in the short month since I joined this league. But do you see it? Once again, that tiny growth in rewards compared to the explosion in the number of players. It is the exact same story as in Platinum 3. A slightly expanding pie that now has to feed vastly more hungry mouths, which inevitably leads to yet another drop in our actual earnings. Thirdly, this video by player King Ape YC, released on August 29, 2025, shows all the rewards for the Platinum 1 League. Unfortunately, I am once again unable to get the exact network power for this league today, but in August 2025, this league had 1,691 players, and today it has 5,775 players. That is a massive 241% increase in player count, while the rewards, yet again, only increased by mere tens of percent. Yes, you already know where this is going. You can easily start looking up this information yourself, and you will see that every single league you can think of ends up exactly the same way. Although, I should say up front that I don't know how much truth there really is to it, but I've read multiple times that lower leagues have better rewards, and weaker players sometimes earn basically the same as stronger players in higher leagues. And you know what? Personally, I believe it. In my opinion, Rollercoin is partly based on psychological manipulation. First, you have to spend a certain amount of time experiencing success, and only then do you reach the point where you start to constantly decline. Rollercoin triggers the sunk cost fallacy in you, a psychological trick where you dedicate so much time, and for some, even money, to this system that it becomes incredibly difficult to just walk away. You prefer to keep playing just so you don't lose what you already have. For me, this theory is essentially confirmed by a video from the creator CryptoSoju, released on June 16, 2026. In the description, the author writes that they grew from 35 to 49 exahashes in a single month and are earning $75 a month. When I compare that to the example of my own earnings with a power of nearly 337 exahashes, I won't even comment on that. Make up your own mind. Another interesting fact regarding the power evolution is the top spot on the leaderboard. In that same video by player King Ape YC, the number 1 position was held by a player named Graphin with a power of 4.212 zettahashes. Today, on July 11, 2026, the top spot belongs to Mr. Tachi with an extreme power of 183 zettahashes, representing an insane 4,252% increase in the top position's power in less than 11 months. When we compare this to the network power of the entire Rollercoin ecosystem back in August 2025, we find that today, this single player commands 0.28% more power than the whole global network of Rollercoin did less than a year ago. Essentially, this one single player now generates more power than all registered and active people in Rollercoin combined did last August. And yes, of course, you could tell me that the Freon event is currently running and that for both of these players, CryptoSoju and Mr. Tachi, the reality is completely different. But honestly, I refuse to differentiate between Rollercoin with or without Freon anymore. Given that this fourth Freon event will run for the entire season, and this extremely aggressive monetization mechanic is likely becoming the new standard for Rollercoin's economic model, it no longer makes sense to measure Rollercoin in any other way than strictly within timeframes, regardless of ongoing events. Which brings me to the next topic, and that is nothing less than Rollercoin's rules. Specifically, I mean the Freon event and the bonus power for purchasing RLT, though to me, the latter doesn't seem quite as aggressive as Freon. Rollercoin has always teetered on the edge between play-to-earn and free-to-play, presenting leagues to us as a fairer environment, but today it is increasingly shifting toward a pay-to-win model by bending its own rules. The most obvious example is the upper limit of each league. For instance, Platinum 3 caps out at 200 exahashes, Diamond 1 caps at 400 exahashes, you know the drill. But how is this even possible? How can a league capped at 400 exahashes be dominated by someone who commands over 9,000 exahashes? And below them, others who exceed the league limit multiple times over. The system places you into a league based on your base power from miners and their permanent bonuses, which gives it a face of fair play. On the other hand, the exact same system completely ignores these artificial temporary bonuses from Freon and RLT purchases. It's as if the organizers of a boxing tournament weighed the fighters completely naked before the match to ensure they meet the 80 kilograms weight class, but then allowed them to step into the ring piloting a 20-ton combat mech because, after all, we only weigh the humans, not their equipment. This, in my opinion, is the biggest perversion and fraud in the entire Rollercoin ecosystem. The whole league system is nothing but a massive illusion where the rules only apply to those who don't pay. And those who do pay can bend those very same rules to their absolute advantage. I believe we will soon reach a point where even casual playing just for fun will be next to impossible because you need resources for everything, and those resources are constantly dwindling in favor of the whales and paying players. And now that I've shown you how the entire Rollercoin ecosystem is exploding in power without any adequate growth in rewards, let's look at what this actually means in practice. In my first video, I showed you my own growth of 426%, contrasted against dropping rewards and a massive decline in power efficiency. Now, since September 20th, 2025, when my power was at 32 exahashes, I have grown by 952% over the course of 294 days to today, July 11th. So, what do my earnings and efficiency look like when I place this growth into this specific time frame? Just like in the first video, completely regardless of any events that took place in Rollercoin during that time. As you can see, Tron shows a massive 70% drop in rewards and a staggering 97% decline in efficiency. With XRP, the drop in rewards is much milder, but even so, the Rollercoin ecosystem managed to devalue my power by 92%. In my first video, Solana showed a 41% growth in rewards, but today I'm already facing a 24% decline. Its power efficiency has plummeted by nearly 93%. Next up, I have RLT. Yes, I know I said I would only deal with coins you can actually withdraw, but since I featured RLT in my first video, I'll compare it today as well, just using a different date and a different power level. In the Diamond Leagues, RLT can no longer be mined, so I will compare it to my last day in Platinum 3, when my power was at 199.7 exahashes. Despite a 524% increase in power, growing from 32 to nearly 200 exahashes, my reward crashed by 69% and my power efficiency by 95%. Quite a beautiful result showing the devastating reality of Rollercoin. The last coin from the first video I have here is Litecoin. This coin also used to show at least some growth in rewards, but today? It's the exact same story as the others. I also showed you a comparison with the player AmpliCrypto in my first video, so I'll do the same today. In his video about a $450 investment, with a power of 7 exahashes, he had a Litecoin block reward of 0.0003. Today, with a power level that is 4,600% higher than his, my block reward is 30% lower than his back then, and my power efficiency is 98% lower. This hardly even needs a comment. Basically, the only thing I can say is that mathematics doesn't lie. This system forces you to run faster and faster, only to fall further and further behind. And if you don't pay, soon you won't even afford the shoes you're running in. An extreme hyperinflationary environment has been created here, constantly fueled by nonsense like Freon and the emission of increasingly powerful miners. However, pushing the mathematical limits is accompanied by an ever greater dilution of rewards. Answer the question for yourselves: is it worth staying in this system, or even trying to jump into it? My opinion is no. But let's look further. Just like in the first video, I'm going to show you Limercoin for comparison. In my opinion, it has a clearly healthier economy, at least for now. On the other hand, a healthy economy is not the same thing as having ways to actually utilize it, which is basically my biggest complaint toward Limercoin. Compared to Rollercoin, this system offers relatively few opportunities for growth. In other words, you have almost no options here, and growing without investing is quite difficult. The only things you can really do here are play games and complete offer walls. However, I found this roadmap of upcoming updates on Discord, so hopefully, the overall accessibility will gradually improve. The first current change is that Limercoin has added CPX research to the offer wall section, so it's no longer just time wall. Further improvements will hopefully follow. But let's subject Limercoin to the exact same mathematics as Rollercoin. With the exception of one note, the period I have recorded in Limercoin is admittedly quite short, but in a system without major updates or constant baseline changes, I don't see that as an issue. From May 18, 2026, over 54 days, until July 11, 2026, I grew by 24%, and the total network increased by 17%. During this time, I invested roughly $25 in Dogecoin into Limercoin, which I had withdrawn from Rollercoin. About twice, maybe 3 times a week, I complete the daily tasks by playing 50 minigames. Otherwise, I avoid them because these minigames really don't entertain me anymore, and I try to work as much as possible with the offer wall, completing surveys, and occasionally playing some games on my mobile phone. I also mine and save up for the cheapest discount sales. That is all. There is practically nothing more I can do here. Despite this minimal activity, I am able to keep my earnings in the green, and my power efficiency is dropping, except for the game currency, only by single-digit values. For Litecoin, my efficiency even slightly increased. Do you see that massive difference compared to Rollercoin? But so we do not have all the data from just such a short period. Back in February 2026, with minimal power, I made a small note or perhaps an experiment with Dogecoin. I tried to see what just playing 15 minigames, which is the equivalent of one daily task in Rollercoin, would do to my reward. The result was a 12% increase in the reward, but I will not dwell on that. Let us look at a period of 139 days, during which I increased my power by 1,548%. With this increase in power, my block reward in Dogecoin rose by 1,297%, even though my power efficiency dropped by 15%. That is still a huge difference compared to Rollercoin. Although the nominal value of my monthly earnings as of July 11th is smaller than in Rollercoin, when I look at the trend in both systems, it is probably only a matter of time before these values equalize at some point. This is the reason why I think it is better to start building a position in Limercoin, even at the cost of fewer activity options, rather than continuing or just now joining Rollercoin. Of course, just like I said last time, Limercoin is not a path to passive income or game-changing wealth either. It could easily end tomorrow, or in a month, or next year. But so could Rollercoin. Anyway, to those who made it this far, thank you for your attention. This video was truly boringly exhausting, but I hope it helped some of you. Over time, I will definitely return, but this time I will focus solely on Limercoin, of course, with a larger time gap between the data. Anyone who would like to start with Limercoin and want to support me on this journey can use my link in the description below the video, but just like last time, anyone who wants to try it and does not want anyone else to benefit from their activity, simply type limercoin.com into your browser. Thank you once again, and have a great time.